Okay, can you hear me in the back? Good morning, everyone. I'm Bobby Eubank. I'm an equity research analyst here at Chevy Chase Trust. I've spent a lot of time researching automation, so much so that I just had to get these robot socks. I know you can't see them in the back, but you'll just have to trust me. We do tend to be a bit obsessive about our research here. In 2014, let's see if I can get this, here we go. In 2014, our automation journey began in Munich, Germany, where we visited the headquarters of a robotics company and went to an automation trade show. We were interested in industrial robots for their use in factories other than those making cars. To see this broader adoption, we thought that robots would need to be safe enough to work near humans. In these pictures, you can see one of that company's safe robots assembling a gearbox. The robot is equipped with sensors that cause the robot to stop when it feels an unexpected object. The robot cranked the gear into its house, something like this. The gear was pretty sharp. I decided to test the robot's safety, so I stuck my hand in the way of the assembly. You can see my hand right here in the photo. I'll admit, I was a little scared, but I still do have my fingers. Because our themes don't focus on just one industry or just one sector, it became clear that automation equipment could dramatically expand beyond the giant factories and truly affect our daily lives. One area which we found particularly interesting and spent a lot of time over the last several months is researching how automation technologies can upend the retail industry. These technologies are what we call next-generation automation. The market opportunity is huge, and we're interested in finding new investment ideas. The US consumer spends $13 trillion annually. That's 70% of the entire US economy. First, let me give you some background. Automation isn't new. It's been happening for hundreds of years. At the time of the first industrial revolution in the early 1800s, 70% of the workforce was in agriculture. Corn production per acre has increased 5-fold since then. That's just one example of how technology and automation has improved food productivity and lowered costs. One thing that hasn't changed over the last 200 years, humans still don't eat more than 3 square meals a day. You might go to Morton's and order a steak. And if you're really extravagant, you might order a steak with blue cheese crumbles. But I'm pretty sure you're not going to order 2 steaks. As a result, the number of workers in farming and agriculture has shrunk to less than 2% of the workforce today. At the same time, workers have been freed up to do other things. In particular, service industries have grown from 20% of the labor force to over 75% today. Compared to the decline in farmers and the rise in service workers, manufacturing has remained at roughly 20 to 30% of the workforce. But that's just part of the story. The prior graph tells just about the shifting workforce. What's common to all 3 sectors, manufacturing most of all, is a tremendous and steady improvement in productivity. It's really quite remarkable. Productivity has increased 4.5 times in the last 70 years. This combination of an exploding service sector and improving productivity has given rise to a consumer-driven economy. The consumer-driven economy is dominated by the retail industry. Over the last couple months, we've talked to several major sports apparel companies. What's amazing is that they're placing orders for their goods from manufacturers in Asia over a year in advance. In many cases, there are multiple factories for each product. A shirt might have a button factory, a weaving and dyeing plant, a cutting and stitching plant, and each process may have its own inventory storage, and goods will need to be transported from one facility to the next. The product then travels through a complex network of planes, trains, automobiles, ships, and warehouses before finally hitting store shelves a full year later. This model is full of inefficiencies. Later, you'll see a new model for the retail supply chain. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 areas of change within the retail industry. I chose these 3 because they're important to radically improving the retail landscape, and we believe each is a source of promising new investments. The first is automated warehouses. The second is last mile production and delivery. And the third is new store formats. First, let's talk about automated warehouses. Today, large warehouses still don't look all that different from the scene at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was set in the late 1930s. At an Amazon fulfillment center, where the lighting is a little better, a human picker walks 12 miles a day pushing a cart, finding items, grabbing them off of shelves, and bringing them back to a packaging station. That's changing. In a modern warehouse, there are miles of conveyor belts, shuttle systems that move packages as fast as Usain Bolt, mobile robots that bring entire shelves to packagers, like seen in this photo, cameras that read 80 barcodes per second, and robots that lift entire pallets onto trucks. These systems retrieve goods 5 times faster, with aisles that are 4 times narrower and shelves that are up to 5 times higher. These new facilities process packages in 13 minutes, compared to an hour and a half, while reducing operating costs by 20%. In the last 2 years, Amazon has tripled its use of robots to over 100,000. In the last picture, robots were lifting and moving an entire shelving unit. Right now, the challenge being worked on is how to robotically pick a single object off of a shelf and put it into a box. Each year there's a contest where university teams from all around the world get together and use robots with artificial intelligence to try and solve this problem. This year's contest was in Nagoya, Japan, and as you can see, a robot picking up some baby wipes was treated like a rock star. In the near future, we expect a true lights-out warehouse, where an engineer flips the light switch as he or she leaves. The equipment continues unloading inbound trucks, sorting the boxes, storing the boxes, retrieving other items from storage, unpacking cartons, combining items, sorting those packages, and finally loading them onto outbound trucks. This happens 24/7, all without lunch breaks, vacations, sick days, or hazard pay. You almost feel bad for the robots. The second topic I want to talk about is the concept of near-urban manufacturing and delivery. Last year, Kevin Plank, the founder of Under Armour, opened a facility in downtown Baltimore to experiment with automating the production of custom shoes and apparel. At the opening ceremony, it was actually a robot cutting the ribbon, which you can faintly see in the background on the left. In this picture, they're using robots for a slightly more practical purpose, stamping out the soles of sneakers. At that same facility, they're using an advanced body measurement system to truly make bespoke apparel. Nike and Adidas have also announced plans to use 3D printing and robotics to produce footwear or apparel here in the US. We spoke to a company that's producing automated sewing equipment for a t-shirt factory being built in Little Rock, Arkansas. This first-of-its-kind machine can cut labor requirements by 90%, while nearly doubling output per hour. Amazon was recently granted a patent for equipment that uses a customer's measurements to make customized clothes right in their fulfillment centers. Just last week, they purchased a company that makes highly accurate 3D models of your body, which would complement this strategy. Zoom Pizza in San Francisco is using robots to spread sauce onto a pizza and lift the pizza into and out of the oven, as you can see in this photo. A human still puts the toppings on, but a smart camera verifies that the toppings match your order. In addition to local production, warehouses are being located closer to urban customers. You'll hear from one of those warehouse owners later today. The average Amazon fulfillment center is 60% closer to the consumer than it was a decade ago, and yet is still more than 100 miles away. A study showed that transportation is almost half of supply chain costs, while rent makes up only 5%. Locating a distribution center 10 miles away from the consumer instead of 100 miles away reduces transportation costs by 2/3. This is before self-driving vehicles and drones, which would significantly reduce carbon emissions and costs while cutting delivery times down to 18 minutes from 80 minutes using a truck. McKinsey projects that 80% of package deliveries will happen autonomously by 2025. Here is an example. This little autonomous vehicle in the National Mall carries a package in a locked compartment for home delivery. Maybe you've seen one roaming the streets of DC. And yes, they can even climb curbs. This company, based in Estonia, operates in a handful of cities in the US and Europe. Each robot uses 9 cameras, ultrasound, and NVIDIA processors to see and understand the environment around them. This year, the robots have traveled well over 65,000 kilometers, up from only 20,000 kilometers last year. Eventually, drone delivery will take off and drastically reduce delivery costs. At a trade show, we met with a company that successfully delivered an order of Slurpees and chicken sandwiches from a 7-Eleven in Reno, Nevada. One estimate is it would cost 10 cents to deliver a package with a drone, compared to $2 to $8 currently. Of course, there are weight and distance limitations to drones, but Amazon has said that 86% of its packages weigh under 5 pounds. The third topic I want to talk to you about is new store formats. A lot of the change in store formats is being driven by pressures from e-commerce. E-commerce penetration is now above 13% and will likely double or even triple over the next decade. This rapid move to e-commerce is driven by the efficiency of its model, and of course, the ability to find robot stocks. Amazon is 9 times as efficient as the average retailer in generating sales per square foot of space, a gap that is only widened. Because of the high fixed costs of physical stores, fewer sales made in-store means their relative efficiency will only get wider without a rethink of retail square footage. So far in 2017, we've seen over 20 major retail bankruptcies and thousands of store closures, the latest being Toys R Us. These figures rival the Great Financial Crisis. Retail square footage under construction was down 20% last year, and we expect to see a contraction in retail space equivalent to 12,000 football fields. To boost efficiency, retailers can reduce space dedicated to overwhelming racks of inventory. Instead, stores will focus on providing experience and differentiate from e-commerce by allowing you to discover and touch products with the assistance of a service associate. Walmart recently paid $310 million for bonobos. This company calls their stores guide shops because a trained guide introduces you to their range of products and makes sure that your personal tastes are met. These shops have no inventory on site. Rather, your order will arrive at your house 2 days later. Nordstrom just introduced Nordstrom Local, which is 2% of the typical footprint, but offers personal shopping guides and even a nail salon, again, with no inventory on site. In mass merchandise, Target is trialing a store with no backroom inventory. Instead, they're treating the store itself like an e-commerce customer, delivering goods as needed. We see $300 billion of inventory reductions as retailers shrink footprints and the need for backup stock is eliminated. One way to reduce clutter and carry less reserve stock is to have better inventory visibility via RFID chips. Lululemon uses RFID to enable customers to see real-time inventory levels in nearby stores using a mobile app. The company can also use this data to balance inventory across their store network. After a large sales event like Black Friday, which you can see in this photo, there can be numerous items with few units left in stock, likely scattered throughout the store. Rather than sell odd lots through clearance, true inventory accuracy enables retailers to locate and sell the last unit. This can boost revenues by 5%. 5% may not sound like a lot, but if you're operating with 10% margins and you boost revenues by 5% without additional costs, you've just increased your operating profits by 50%. Levi's now tags every pair of jeans to take advantage of those economics. I promised a new model, so here we are. The future of the retail supply chain is more local production, more e-commerce, faster delivery, less cluttered stores, and better customer service. Now, I'd like to discuss 3 investment ideas we've been researching that enable warehouse automation, local production and delivery, and new store formats. The first investment idea is the world's leading manufacturer of robots and has more than 100 different models available. I met with the company at their Japanese headquarters in September, where I saw 5,000 robots working together to make 5,000 new robots each month. It was literally robots making robots. The company is an early adopter of artificial intelligence, allowing robots to learn from other robots. We expect this to drastically lower implementation costs. Given their market leadership and reputation for easiness to program, they have attracted a large developer community around the world. We expect this company to continue to increase its offerings in the fast-growing area of collaborative robots that work side by side with humans without crushing any fingers. While automobile and consumer electronics manufacturing are still major end markets, we project strong growth in new industries, such as retail. To take advantage of this opportunity, the company is more than doubling production capacity. The second investment idea is a company you're going to hear from in a little while. They are an urban warehouse real estate investment trust with a unique asset base and significant competitive barriers to entry. We believe that easy-to-implement automation for local production delivery will make these properties more valuable. Later, you will hear TAP discuss urbanization trends that also position the properties well. The company owns 183 buildings, as of last check, and totaling 12.6 million square feet. The properties are multi-purpose and located where the largest and growing consumer populations in the US meet the highest volume distribution points. Urban areas typically offer limited new development options given available land and zoning constraints, and industrial properties are often targets to be redeveloped into other high-value uses, such as office or multifamily. We believe the market undervalues this type of real estate because traditional analysts are not looking at the secular trends that will influence the value of scarcity and proximity. The small property industrial real estate market is very fragmented, providing opportunity to expand the portfolio and buy assets from those that don't value the properties for their future potential. The third idea is the market leader in RFID chips, with more than 60% market share. The chip's unique technology can actually harvest a tiny amount of energy in a radio wave sent from a reader to power the chip on and send the chip's identification back to that reader. The technology enables wireless and battery-free connectivity of everyday items, with inventory visibility a major use case. We believe brick-and-mortar retailers trying to differentiate their stores from e-commerce will invest in this technology to provide a better customer experience. I met with the company at their headquarters in Seattle in July, where they showed me examples and demonstrations. In one use case, they showed that by positioning several readers throughout their lab, they can triangulate the exact location of an item within that store. Stores that adopt this often find that items are simply misplaced when they were assumed to be stolen. A single brand or retailer can go through hundreds of millions to more than 1 billion of the disposable RFID chips each year. We expect markets outside of the apparel industry, the largest end market currently, to increase adoption as implementation costs continue to decline. For example, tags can be paired with other sensors, such as temperature monitors to ensure food and prescriptions remain cold. Hospitals are also using this technology to find expired drugs throughout their facilities. So, in conclusion, our automation research started with a small robotics company that we met with in Germany. At the time, robotics wasn't popular in the investment press, but now there are ETFs dedicated to just owning automation companies. That German robotics company ended up being bought by a Chinese appliances maker who also clearly saw the opportunity for robots outside of car factories. Our focus on robots expanding beyond the car factories into other factories proved to be too narrow. It became clear that this technology had broader applications than just factories in faraway locations. Most recently, we've expanded our research to include the changing retail supply chain and have discovered new investment opportunities being created in this large market. Other subject areas within next-generation automation that we plan to explore are healthcare and food service. Now, I'd like to introduce Tap Chibaya to tell you about the investment implications from an urbanizing US.